to bring back some homegrown news.
So how many, so the basic blast furnace MO is to go into a place where there is no media, set up your live broadcast, and broadcast live out of there. So you've been to national security events all over the country, you've been to Baghdad. How many of these major world events do you think that you've covered in 10 years?
Well, again, we've covered 11 different uprisings against globalization. We even help people over the telephone to set up theirs in Genoa. We've been to the different uprisings in Canada, throughout the country, like New York and Boston, and Cincinnati with the big FTAA confrontation there. And so I don't know how many, but again, the places outside of the uprisings we've been to has been Baghdad and New Orleans. And now we're doing news coming out of West Virginia, the people resisting mountaintop removal before it became a hot issue, before a lot of people went down to Rock Creek. And when we first discovered that one of the founders of Earth First, Mike Rosal, and the gang had moved in, and that retired coal miners had given them 4 ruined cottages, one for geeks, one for college students, one for like sort of a show area or performance area, and one for aging hippies on SSI. And so here was the most unique situation ever, and that's that retired steelworkers and fired union coal miners, had welcomed them to come to West Virginia, not only to be active against this, but to stop it. And so Mike Rosal and other people have moved there. Ginn has moved there to live. That has become their home. And so we brought some of the first news out of there, both audio and video, of a very isolated, small ragtag group that was going to take on Massey, a very powerful coal company. Now, since then, since the audio and video work we did, the Climate Ground Zero has had over 150 people arrested. And nowhere else that we know of, except maybe Australia, is there an ongoing nonviolent campaign. It's like, go to DC and get arrested. You know, maybe a year later, go to DC and get arrested. But to have consistent civil disobedience, to be caught up in the courts, to work with the legislature, to work with wind farms, to work with watching the rivers and the water quality, to confront the EPA. I mean, this has been every aspect of mountaintop removal has been covered by the people down in Ground Zero, and we were really excited that we were able to be there for the first of it. It's really funny. Ginn had called me and he said, we're setting up this nonviolent campaign against mountaintop removal, and we wondered if you could help us. And I said, sure, and didn't think anything of it. And said I'll stop by. And so 3 days later, only as Ginn can, he called up and he goes, well, where are you? I said, I'm sorry, who's this? This is Ginn. I talked to you a few days ago. You said you were going to stop by. I said, what do you mean? So I have a family, you know, I've got work. He said, so when are you going to stop by? And I got so mad. I said, okay, I'll clear the deck, clear my schedule. I'll be there next week. And that's when I realized that there was no supporting group, or there was no money, there was no 501c3. I said, how did he hear about me? He goes, well, we heard about your work against Pantex, which was the only nuclear bomb factory in Amarillo, Texas. And we had got arrested there in 81, 83, and 86. And I go, well, why didn't we get somebody who resisted the Spanish-American War? Maybe they would be even better than me. And so he was talking about a nonviolent action of confrontation with them during the Cold War that happened 28 years ago.
So you've been active much longer than the 10 years that Blast Furnace
Oh,
was
very
been
much so.
in existence.
Very much so. But when you were sleeping at night as a little child in the 60s and you heard that Paul was dead, and couldn't sleep all night, but you kept listening to the radio all night, you always dreamed of, having a radio station and the power of people being able to hear of you, but the power of people being able to hear from you all over the world. I mean, we got a email from Brazil, and I said, you guys are out there fighting the fight and stealing your bandwidth from the bank next door. I said, why would you even contact me about rebroadcasting what we're doing? He's there because you're the only station that plays Cheech and Chong. I'm there, what? We love Cheech and Chong. Are they touring? And at the time I laughed and said, that they were just years away from death. And now we turned around, they're touring again. And so we try to employ, in Abby Hoffman type fashion, humor as a way of communicating truth and entering into people's hearts. If you get people to laugh, you got them. And so we don't just have music and serious NPR type content, but we also employ some type of zaniness and humor and fireside theater and playing the theme song to Car 54, Where Are You? For all of you who are under 60, you're going to have to look that one up. You're going to have to Google that one. And this has been very important to us because we feel like that with a lot of the alternative, independent media that's out there, that they're trying to sound like NPR. Well, we already have an NPR. We don't need self-serious stations, and especially if we're calling ourselves anarchists, we don't need to, form something that sounds like we're following different etiquette books of broadcasting.
Right.
And so I think that there's a lot of creative things we could do, and there's a lot of news out there that obviously is never going to be newsworthy to the corporate media, and that's what we need to go after. We need to interview people who are heroes in our communities. We need to, teach other nonprofit groups and other activist groups, how to do media so they could have a show of their own, even if they just do a half-an-hour show a week or every other week and place it on the internet and place it on Radio for All for people to rebroadcast. And I've met people from all over the world, all over the country, who have rebroadcasted our stuff and used our shows. The one show we had was called Town Talk Radio. Town Talk was a defunct bread company here. And we just ran around in a car and played music over the CD player in the car and talked into the microphone, and that was our show. And it was a big success because, again, it was something that was innovative, it was something that was creative, it was something informal, and that's what people want. They don't want to hear that, they were surrounded by guns and then they shot them.
Well, you're not a spring chicken.
No, today's my birthday.
And
today's my birthday. I'm 58 years old.
You've got a rich history of activism, and
43 years.
You've been working with. Have you been part of organizations?
No.
And how?
It's one of the time the anarchist said, "You're one of those individualist anarchists." I go, "You're catching on." I in the scriptures it says where 2 or 3 are gathered, there's trouble. And it just seems like that you have to take a few steps backwards so when the whole shit house comes down that you're not caught underneath it. And so right now we're having some really bad post G20 fighting here in Pittsburgh. And if that determines our well-being or our emotional temperament or landscape, then we're really in trouble. Obviously, NPR is cranking it out whether people are fighting in the coffee room or not, and so it's really important that that we keep our independence so that we could keep moving, because there's everything to stop us there is